Hello, we are doing the root Tain Tin, which means to hold. And we'll start by thinking about how we see it in many words. So once you know that the root Tain Tin means to hold, you can see its meaning in many words. A container, from the roots con, meaning together, and tain, meaning to hold, is used to hold anything from a small marble collection to a large cargo that is shipped around the world. A tenant is a person who holds land by title or lease. And if you get detention, you are held in custody. It's all you people who spend some time in reflection with Mrs. Forrest, right? Finally, the first recorded use of detain was in 1570 when Mary, Queen of Scots, was held captive in English prisons by her English cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. And we will be returning to the word detain here in a moment. But this is just meant to be an overview, an introduction, and these are words that could show up on your roots quiz, so you want to make note of them. The first word listed on the front of your page is abstain. Abstain is a verb. It comes from the roots ab, meaning away, and tain, meaning to hold. You can see here that I highlighted those roots just like you're supposed to, and I underlined the definition just like you're supposed to. To refrain deliberately from an action or practice by one's own choice. So I choose not to do something. That's what that means, right? So, for instance, you see my coffee cup here. Many people, when they are pregnant, abstain from drinking coffee because they want to make sure they don't put too much caffeine in their growing baby, right? So that is abstain. Next we have contents. Contents is a noun. It comes from the roots con, meaning together, and ten, meaning to hold. And it quite literally means the things that are inside a container. It holds things together, right? The contents are what are held together. So here I have a container, a refrigerated case, that is full of desserts. So the contents of this case are very tasty, sugary deliciousness. That's what they are. Next we have entertain. Now, entertain is a verb from ent, meaning inner, and tain, meaning to hold, and it means to hold, keep, or maintain in the mind. So if you are entertaining yourself, you are keeping yourself occupied, right? But this particular meaning of entertain generally relates specifically to an idea, like I'm entertaining the idea to do this, or I'm entertaining this thought. So you see my sign here, no campers beyond this point without staff. Means I could entertain the thought that I could go past here, but it probably wouldn't be a very good idea, would it? So in this particular case, entertain is really specifically referring to that idea of like a thought you entertain or an idea you entertain, as opposed to keeping yourself entertained by doing something, though it can mean that as well. Detain. This is one of the few pictures here that I did not take. I found a free use photo from the Japanese internment during World War II, which if you don't know about, you should go and learn about. Detain is a verb from the roots de, meaning away, and tain, meaning to hold, and it means to hold back or keep in. So if you don't know about our Japanese internment, it's not a super happy part of American history. There are lots of those. We still have to study them, right? So in this particular case, during World War II, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, the United States detained, they kept in Japanese, even American citizens of Japanese descent were sent to camps, internment camps, right? And kept in a single place. They were held there. They had to move there and stay there for quite some time. So that's a really good example of the word detain, even if it's a very unhappy one, right? And this photo is a little girl who is on her way to an internment camp with her family. On a happier note, our next word is obstinate. It's an adjective. It means holding to an opinion, purpose, or course in spite of reason, arguments, or persuasion. Many teenagers are obstinate, in case you were wondering. None of you, of course, though, right? My favorite example of something being obstinate is my puppy, one of the two. So this is Caledonia. You've heard about her. There's one very clear photo and one blurry photo because Caledonia decided last year that she had a deep love of literature. I say that. What that really meant was that Caledonia liked to eat my books. And no matter how much I tried to persuade her or how much reason I used, she was obstinate. She was going to keep stealing those books and trying to eat them. So we often use this word with people or even animals. Like a donkey can be obstinate, right? It refuses to do what you want it to do. It's going to stick to its course or its decision to stay and not move on the course, no matter how much you try and tell it should, right? Next we have pertain, which is a verb from the roots per meaning through and tain meaning to hold, to belong to as a part, member, accessory, or party. So the way I framed this for myself was to think, what am I a member or a party of? I am a part of the Fort Worth Country Day community, right? So when I decided that, it helped me really figure out what image to show you. So this is actually a screenshot of our last snow day. You can see here it says Fort Worth Country Day closed Monday. It talks about all the weather alerts and all the school closings and everything. And it's literally what I happen to have on my phone that I sent to someone else. So I pulled it up and put it here for you. So this message that Fort Worth Country Day is closed on Monday pertains to me because I belong to as a part, member, accessory, or party of this community, right? It applies to me. It pertains to me. Next we have retentive, which is an adjective from the roots re meaning again and ten meaning to hold, so to hold on to again. The actual definition is holding on to something easily, such as retentive soil or a retentive memory. So I have a brain here, that's my retentive memory, right? Easy to remember things. I hold on to those memories easily. A retentive soil might hold on to water or moisture easily, making it really good for plants that need water, right? Next we have sustain, which is a verb from the root sus meaning up and tain meaning to hold. To hold up, give support or relief. Now you'll notice I have a breakfast here. I really need breakfast to sustain me through the morning. That's what it does. That's the verb, right? Breakfast sustains me. It holds me up. It supports me. It helps me get through the morning. So that is why you see my breakfast here. I hope you eat breakfast because it would help sustain you as well. Now we have tenacious, which is an adjective, persistent in maintaining or holding on to something, such as a point of view. Now you'll notice here I have a picture of some statues. These statues are actually in the museum, the Civil Rights Museum, that you can visit in Memphis next time you're there. I went this past summer, Dr. Phillipson and I went to visit it, and it was really interesting. And this particular photograph is a picture of some young people who are protesting at a lunch counter during the civil rights movement, and you can see there's a video playing behind them on the wall, and what it talked about was how tenacious these young people were, right? That was a really difficult thing to do, and they persisted through the difficulty, right? They made it through. They were tenacious. And it was particularly interesting to be at the museum and see this video actually showed scenes of young people training to go to lunch counters, because that was a really tough thing. People would do really awful things. They'd say horrible things. If you were protesting at a lunch counter, they might pour things on your head. I don't know if you remember reading Sit-In on the 50th anniversary, and it talked about those horrible things, right? And so these young people had to practice to be so tenacious. Our last word for today is tenure. It is a noun. Now the definition is a little long. I'm going to read it, and then we're going to talk about it. The act, right, manner, or term of holding something as a landed property, a position, or an office, especially a status granted after a trial period to a teacher that gives protection from summary dismissal. That was a really long definition, wasn't it? So it sounds very complex. It's actually far more simple, and it is also rather controversial. People like to argue about whether tenure should happen or not. So, especially in the case of a teacher, which is why Mrs. Rains and I's lovely faces are gracing your page at the moment, or your screen at the moment. The premise is that a teacher could earn essentially a position for forever, right? That you could teach for a while for a trial period, and you could earn your job a protected status for your job. So if I were to earn tenure, I couldn't be fired. Now, I would point out that we work at Country Day, and Country Day doesn't use tenure. A lot of places don't have tenured teachers. But some places do, and people like to argue about whether they should or shouldn't. Universities have tenured professors. So my sentence on your page is about that. My favorite professor, one of them, in college, was a young professor And he was at my university for 2 years, and he didn't get a tenured spot. So he didn't have any protection from being let go from the school. So he left to go find a school he thought would give him tenure. I hope that these have helped you understand these words, maybe given you some good ideas for how to remember them. Make sure you've done your highlighting and your underlining and all that good stuff, and good luck on your roots quiz.